Well, thank you very much. So we're very happy to host this event. Those offices were I don't know if you guys know the Ferran Adrià El Bulli, that it was one of the most famous restaurants in the world, actually. So those were the offices where he created everything. So that was called previously Bulli Labs, and now it's a Nuclio factory. So we are not only a venture builder, so we are a mix between a venture builder and a holding company that tend to be an ecosystem, an entrepreneurial ecosystem, basically. And it's that we do. We create companies, but we as well have our own companies where we stand just on the educational side and training. We have a fund attached, etc. So everything just surrounding the ecosystem. So very happy to be here.
Well, I had no idea what I was getting into when I first arrived here, walking up the stairs, and then everything opens up into this incredible facility. So thank you so much for letting us have this. I hope you guys find this a really important conversation, but also something you can take away a lot of practical things, because we're going to be talking about a lot of things today. Some world news, maybe some European news, and I don't think there's two people who could be better suited for this conversation than Benoit and Ernest, knowing your guys' backgrounds. And I feel completely out of place sitting next to both of you, but I'm very happy to be able to moderate this conversation with both of you. So I'll try to bring the best out of each of you. Maybe you could explain a little bit more about your background specifically, so we can bring that context, and then I'll let Benoit also speak a little bit.
Yeah, right, cool. Well, I've been an entrepreneur. First of all, I defined myself as an entrepreneur. I started my first company like 25 years ago. I'm a bit old. And I turned investor. I started just doing business angel activities, investment when I was entrepreneur, just at the end of that stage that I sold a couple of companies in the telecom industry. And then, I joined a private equity firm at a European level. Then I moved to Latin America as well, just doing M&A operations there. And then I joined a firm in London that it was called Entree Capital. Is an amazing firm that I learned a lot from my partners. I was running Europe, so we had a chance to do lots of investments global wise. Some of the companies went IPO, and we here in Barcelona, the city where I am from, I had a chance to invest in Globo. It was the first investment in the fund in Southern Europe. That was cool. So I was part of the board of the company for a couple of years or so, and then I decided to to stop traveling because it was a little bit too much for me. And then I set up a fund company that it was called Neco Capital. Now it's Encomenda. That is no, because we merged both companies last year. And I'm still part of the board of directors of Encomenda, but I'm not running actively the fund since in 2020. I decided just to join Nuclio as a managing partner and CEO. So that's my background.
It's incredible. And you were on the board of Globo as well?
Not yet. Not now.
No.
Now I was for a couple of years.
Yes.
Now I'm in the board of 15 companies maybe.
Yeah.
And so all of the companies that we've set up here in Nuclio, and some of the fund companies as well that we had the chance to invest.
I think a very positive example of what somebody can achieve in Europe as a sort of pro-capitalist, pro-entrepreneur. You're really innovating and helping out. And Benoit, also a little bit in your background as well there, no?
Yeah. So entrepreneur, I've been 15 years in Barcelona. I lived in US and Asia also. So I've seen the ecosystem of entrepreneurship in 3 continents. And quite early, I've seen, I would say even before finishing the studies, that Europe has to catch up, and that we have all seen in the past decades, and that will be the topic that with the Silicon Valley and the ecosystem has been much stronger. And so as today, I'm also the one of the founders of what's called the European Accelerationism, which is to speak up as founders, entrepreneurs, investors on what Europe needs to change to be competitive and to keep its talent, attract talent, and make it possible to create the success stories of tomorrow. As we know, most of the very famous companies from Netflix to Airbnb and more, Google, are made in US as of today, and Europe has a talent to make it tomorrow. So I'm also, I created several companies in the past. I work in social network, one of the largest social network of Europe that got an exit back in 2007. And then I came here, I did something in the circular economy, and lately I'm also the co-founder of a company called Consensio, where we digitalize traditional industries, fruit and vegetables. So we bring real-time tools to that industry. And beyond that, and I come today as a European accelerationism, we engage with European politicians to make them understand the point of view, and that they should make sure that once company grows and are successful, they should have a much more incentive to keep their headquarters here in Europe and to have a European NASDAQ. These are part of what we look. And so also on my background, I'm a software engineer, and I'm also on the late, because I saw that the legal part was very important. I'm also a lawyer, but really I'm an entrepreneur and trying to connect the dot to make possible the growth of you and all the entrepreneurs of Europe.
Okay, there's a lot that we can play around and talk with, but let's just give you a kind of brief overview of what we're actually going to be talking about. So obviously we have two very experienced veterans from Europe here, and so we want to make this practical for you guys, but we also want to kind of talk ahead. How many people are entrepreneurs here? Maybe we can get a raise of hand. So, okay, so quite a few, yeah. Of course, we're all thinking 5 years down the line. If we're not, we're trying to kind of reverse engineer what's my business going to look like 5 years from now. And maybe you're comparing your notes with somebody else from another continent and comparing with theirs. And you might realize, like, damn, okay, maybe your ambition is quite a bit higher because the examples that you're looking at are just on a different level. So we want to talk about, of course, practical things like how to navigate the scaling up a startup in Europe. But we also, at the core of this conversation, want to have an undertone talking about the current status quo in Europe and the things that are going on. I think the perfect place to start this conversation comes from a cry for help almost from Mario Draghi, the former Prime Minister of Italy, who just yesterday kind of echoed all of the messages from a movement that both Benoit have tried to take a big part in, as he mentioned, called European accelerationism. And just to kind of paint the picture of what that looks like is like, there's a couple memes that have been circling around on the internet over time. And one of them is like, when do European companies become unicorn companies? It's when they move to the US, right? It's when they incorporate in Delaware. And you have plenty of other examples. And it's just like, why is this happening? Because we have all the talent. We have incredible education. We have good welfare systems. We're keeping people in circulation, but we're just not having these outlier situations. You have a company, NVIDIA, worth $4 trillion, like more than the whole German stock exchange. And so fundamentally, this is something that we just don't believe needs to be a thing. We think that there's just too much red tape. There's a lot, well, we can talk about all the things holding it back, but I think we're coming to a stage in Europe right now where it's like, okay, but if we do not fix this problem, we're actually going to be facing a very, very, very harsh reality in 5-10 years from now. And that impacts everyone. And so I started building a company in Europe. I'm half Swedish, half American. I grew up in San Francisco, so I got to see that ecosystem. And I incorporated my company in Estonia, and I was thinking about doing it in Spain. So I've kind of experienced dealing with all those different aspects, and immediately you're like, what is going on here? There's so much friction in this environment. And so we were kind of big proponents of, okay, we need to make Europe more competitive on a global standpoint. We have an aging population. We have an industrial base that is shrinking. And so we don't want to just be, and the joke is like, we're going to be importing products made by European founders abroad, and we cannot allow that to be a thing. Okay, and so I think maybe you are the perfect person to talk about what Mario Draghi spoke about to the whole European Commission yesterday, and echo his words.
Yes, by the way, you can follow us on X, on the EU Hack HQ, so X Twitter. We'll share. Yeah, I think one of the movement, and so we say the movement, we have to contribute. And here, thank you for the host, and everyone can contribute. And it's just to not keep our experiences and its consequences of the system for ourselves, right? Because we need to push the experience, the user experience of the European legal system toward the politicians. And there is a momentum, and I think a wake-up call that is happening that we try to accelerate also. And Mario Draghi, Enrico Letta, and a lot of people are starting, even at the political level, to wake up. So from our point of view, in addition to making new laws that make it easier to do companies or things, it's also a mindset shift where European national politicians say, look, revenues from companies, founders staying in Europe, tax revenues are not given. At some point, the most talented people on earth, they can walk away. And when 10, 20 years ago, the technology weight on the GDP, on the market cap was much lower, so they had a harder time to realize that. And now they realize it probably too late, but better late than never, right? And Draghi today said, one of the quotes is that if we don't change, a journalist asked, what is it, do it or die? And he said, no, it's not die, it's slow agony. And it's the truth. And Europe, what happened, there are a lot of movement, historical things that are anti-growth, that have absolutely no logic of existing, but have been here in Europe for decades or centuries, and that needs to change. And the whole system, even when a company does a lawsuit or whatever to get flexibility, we need judges that understand business. And what part of the movement is we want the politicians to, how many politicians have an entrepreneur background? And if not, why don't you come at Nuclio and you participate to a fundraising exercise, looking at how it is to raise money with American, European venture capital, have the first-hand experience. For me, the parallel, and I will hand over the mic, is when you are an entrepreneur, you know, you may have an idea, you may have a PowerPoint, you may have a draft, a prototype, but the real truth arrives when you just hand it over to the first consumers, clients, and you get a crazy hardcore feedback session, and your next version is much better. So what we need is, we need this spirit in Europe where if we're gonna make laws in Europe to make growth possible, to keep the European talent, there is no better people than entrepreneurs and the one who invest in entrepreneurs to give the most accurate and useful feedback to really generate wealth and growth in Europe.
Yeah. No, fully agree with you. Well, in my point of view, it's very tough being an entrepreneur in Europe, actually comparing of being an entrepreneur somewhere else, particularly in the US. The problem itself is, well, we all know the problems. And getting back to what Mario Draghi said, and he was referring to, well, we need to issue European-wise debt at a level of 800,000 million or something like that.
800 million.
Yeah, 800 billion per year, and I don't know how many years, but it was quite remarkable. The point is that, okay, you can issue a lot of debt, and you can just fleet with money the markets and make it possible just obtaining more liquidity. Okay, that's fine. We can create a market where our Euronext or local stock exchanges, they have more liquidity, but I think there's lots more steps that we have to achieve yet. So there is a tax level that all the countries you can operate at the European level. So there is not harmony between the tax systems at the European wise. We all know that. There is language differences, more and more less, but the point is that you're tackling Southern Europe or Northern Europe, it's kind of, it's kind of a cluster. If you see, the Nordic companies, they work with them, but they are small countries as well, and they just get those companies going to the US in a very fast phase. So that to me, there is a lot of things to tackle first, and it's not only money. It's more about regulation, decentralization of the system. If you want to incorporate a company at a European level, it should be the same laws that applies to everyone, laws for entrepreneurs. In Spain, we've been moving a little bit forward with the past Ley de Emprendedores that it happened last year or 2 years ago, and it was very famous. But then suddenly we started just realizing that a lot of the goodwills that they showed, it was plenty of obstacles, like notary registers, NIE for foreigners, things like that. That it's not easy. It's not easy just to move forward with this legal framework. So we need a European-wide framework. I would suggest that okay, we should create an ID for the companies at the European level with the same taxation, with the same framework, with the same laws, etc. Like, US, everyone is going to Delaware because there is a lot of, there is common law. It's completely different, but but the framework, there is a lot of cases that they can rely on. But in Europe, we can create a framework like that. It's not that difficult. I mean, I think it would be far more difficult just issuing 800 billion per year rather than just creating a little framework that everyone can operate when setting up their startups. So that's, to me, it's one of the main points.
Yeah, I guess it's like in the U.S. you have an LLC, and in any state in the U.S. anybody knows what an LLC is, or a B Corp, C Corp, right? And so the European version would be like European Inc., right? And so instead of creating some form of, I don't even know what the name, like OU, I don't even know what my company in Estonia really stands for, compared to something in Spain, right? So something that's recognizable anywhere. And this is important, right? Because, I mean, you guys have both dealt with probably, foreign, outside of European investors who come to Europe and they're like, what am I looking at when I'm trying, how can I even, interact with this company that I want to give a value to, that I want to put money into, because there's just too much fragmentation going on. I want to take one step back, because this is a big battle. This is a very large topic. Maybe for a lot of you, you've never heard anything about this, but I want to give one more reason why you should pay a special attention to this, like a quick anecdote to what's been going on, because a lot of this conversation and a lot of people that get introduced to this, it happens on the X Twitter platform. And if you've been very attentive and responsive and adding a voice to this platform, you have anecdotes like this one entrepreneur. I don't know if you guys know Levels.io. Anybody recognize him? Yeah, a few of you in the audience. Somebody, indie hacker, spins up little projects every month as such, right? And next thing you know, this guy is interacting with some of the top people in the European Commission. And so I just want to say, like, if you're really into this, this is something that happens from the highest levels, but also happens from this level. Our voices are incredibly important. And I really think, as an entrepreneur, it's the most noble thing we can be doing is to be making money and to be talking about it. And there's so much stigma against that, but at the same time, people now, Levels.io was one of the entrepreneurs that was specifically tapped with Mario Draghi. They had a conversation and Mario Draghi was asking him questions. How is it to build a company in Europe? Because they need to hear from us, and some people are willing to have that conversation. And also, like, incredible branding opportunity. So if you guys want to get your brand out there, get your company out there, really, really try to interact with these politicians, because I think I see that as a really a new movement, new wave that's just happening. And you get an incredible way to network. This is how I met Benoit, just by participating in this community, because I was like, you know what, I work at Norscan every single day, and there was a big panel with somebody from the World Fund VC, and I brought up these questions, and the conversation just completely got out of hand. And a couple of people came up to me after and like, what you're talking about is so right. Let's have a round table. And then I reached out to a bunch of people that one day before I held it, And one of the accounts was EU ACC policy. I was like, hey, can you retweet this, see if maybe if there's somebody in Barcelona? And it turned out to be Benoit. And Benoit was like, oh, I live in Barcelona. And next thing you know, I have Benoit coming, an absolute veteran. And we had an incredible discussion. So I just wanted to give an anecdote to what entrepreneurs are doing and having incredible success, having incredible success in the market doing, elevating their careers. So maybe this is something you can also speak to, because you have an incredible profile and you're starting to now really grow and get recognition from a lot of these people.
Yeah, so there is a movement where we make noise, and we'll share probably in the list. You can see the ex-handler. So we have even a lot of, now you cannot see who's liking, but we have some of the prime minister politicians who like. We have even today, we have very big entrepreneurs, forgetting one of Y Combinator co-founder also. So it's, if we don't speak up, we may have laws to be changed, but we still have free speech in Europe. And one of our duty for ourselves, for our companies, for our shareholders, for ourselves, is to speak up and say what's wrong, right? At the end, there is a shift, mindset shift, is we're in a democracy, so our politicians, the ones who do the law, supposedly are representing ourselves and the interest of Europe. And we cannot blame them if they do bad laws, because we never dared to tell them anything that they could do it better. So it's like you complain about a service, you go to a coffee shop or whatever, and you will tell them that the coffee is too cold. Maybe if you had told them next time the coffee is the right temperature. So you have to speak up, because now there is the mindset shift. The mindset shift is happening. We see Mario Draghi, Enrico Letta, European Commission, and most political party having observed that yes, the growth, we have a much lower growth than the US. So now they are looking for ideas, and they are seeing, and the Mario Draghi report, Enrico Letta, they explained that the difference in GDP growth, because US in the past 20 years had the growth twice of Europe and are way ahead of us in GDP per capita, they understood that most of that difference is technology company, so we, founders, and the inability to attract, keep, and grow. And that's strategic for them. Now they understand it, so now we have to tell. And the metaphor of usability is why we talk about NIF, notaries, things like that, is when you are a founder and tomorrow you start to have traction and you say, look, I need 5 million euros, 10 million euros, I need to do my IPO because this is growing, this is successful. Right now, you are a victim of the system. Why? Because if you are headquarters in Spain or even in Germany and many European countries, you suddenly have people from US investing in you who discover that in theory, they would have to take an 11-hour flight to meet with a notary so they can invest. They also discover that supposedly they have to go to a police station so they get a tax ID. And that is destroying the image of the entrepreneur who is not guilty here, but is a victim. And we have to speak up, because that experience, if more politicians either hear it from you and from us, or come and experience it, they may reach the right conclusion that this is absolutely stupid way to lose investment and jobs in Europe. And we have here, we're in Barcelona, Cabify, TravelPerk, Typeform, huge success stories with unicorns, most of them. They are all politicians. Everybody say, oh, Barcelona startups. Technically, they are not. They are all headquarters in US. One of the number one reason is notaries and the tax ID. And why? Because you could say, oh, notaries don't speak English. They don't use digital tools. And even if they were fixing this, you cannot have a system where a capital increase has to be real time, because you have time zones in this world and the earth is not flat. So how are you gonna get, when you do a round of financing, you may have investors from Silicon Valley, a 9-hour difference, from New York, from Australia, from Asia. are you gonna wake up a notary in Spain or Germany at 4 a.m. to do that run? It's not possible. So at some point, what we ask for to our politicians, and we ask you entrepreneurs, they say, this has to stop. We have to bring common sense. And as Europeans say, maybe when people didn't know how to read and write, and to have somebody speak aloud and do a signature. But what cannot be, while we have all the politicians in Europe saying we want more tech growth, is that the first experience of an investor in a tech company in Spain, in Barcelona, in Europe, in Berlin, is absolutely backwards and like if digital did not exist. That's just break from the beginning the experience. It's like you do a website or a new app. If the registration form is awful and takes 20 steps in another language, you just walk away. And what Europe and European politicians have to realize is we need, as Europe, to have the best investment experience on earth. We were talking about 800 billion a year. Europe knows that they will need private money, private capital. So step one, what we ask as European accelerationism, make it crazy easy to invest in a European company, leave it to the European founders to choose the user experience to make it digital. In Europe, there is one good thing that has been voted and will happen in the coming months is a 10-second wire transfer. We probably will be one of the best on earth. Any transfer you'll do in Europe will be 10 seconds. It's deploying, it will be everyone. Why don't we do Europe? Let's build on this. Why don't we do the 10-second investment experience where we are even better than Delaware? And the movement, us, is we not aim for number 2 or number 3, which is very often too much the mindset in Europe. Let's go for number 1. Number 1, that's what we aim. And the next stage, what we look is the life cycle of companies. Once you have sold that, you did the 5 million, 10 million, maybe Ernest put a ticket. Next is why they invest. If someone put 50 million or 20 million in your company, there is a stage where they have to look, is it a place to do an IPO? How the IPO will do? We don't have a European NASDAQ. And where Draghi, Letta, the European Commission is right, is it's a legal thing. Let's have a union, a capital market union, where you don't have different rules when you do an IPO in Barcelona, in Madrid, in Paris, in Berlin. Let's have the same rules so that you have a scale and then it makes sense. We are sending hundreds of billions of European savings to US to invest in the American NASDAQ. So it's just because we convince Europeans by our laws, by our red tape, that was smarter and better to invest outside Europe. But let me tell you, tomorrow we are competitive. A lot of Europeans will be very happy to invest in European IPOs, right?
I think at least for me, and maybe for you guys too, seeing, we've been talking about this for the last 4 months online and kind of this grassroots movement, trying to put light to this, and then seeing Mario Draghi, very well-respected person, talk about it yesterday, really gave a lot of vindication for the movement. But it also put everything into light, which is that we can have an incredible impact by just raising our voices and figuring out the right channels. I think there's like an 80-20 effect here, and knowing how to speak directly is a really incredible way to make a change. And maybe we can quickly, to kind of wrap up before we talk about more how you guys navigate the scaling up and everything, is how to actually to participate more in the conversation. So what have you done personally to kind of really get involved and really create an impact in the movement?
I think right now we're at the stage, so at the movement where having first-hand experience as an entrepreneur gives you an advantage. So personally raise money with my co-founder in my company. But I've seen first-hand what it is to raise money with American investors, with European investors, convince them. And it's so hard to raise money that when you get criticized because of the legal system you chose, because you are based in Barcelona, you're like, what's wrong? I'm not guilty of that. So, but I can do something because we're entrepreneurs. We like to act, right? So, and while in the past, for example, the latest startup I contributed to have, I work with Francisco Polo. I was invited to the vote at the Congress, and it's a version 1. And what we want to tell also Spain, let's do version 2, 3, much better, much more ambitious. Because what happened is that it's too much watered down. I think politicians and the administration truly underestimate the effort to get things to change. And if you water down something which is, so in the latest startup was, we're gonna make digital the NIE, which is a requirement to invest. But there were so many other new requirements that it has no real effect. And we go back to look at results. So Europe has to look how many IPOs in Europe. In Draghi report was very interesting, saying in the last 50 years in Europe, there have been 100 billion euro company in market cap built in Europe. In US, in the same time period, the 50 years, I think the number is there are 7, not 100 billion, $1 trillion company. And the question is, when we talk in 1, 2, 3 years, how many? And we should have the same level or more. And in technology, we know that if you do a product as good as the leader, doesn't mean you become the leader. Because tomorrow, if we are as good as Delaware and US, the brand of US, the switching cost to Europe, it will be there. So if you really want to change, we have to actually be better and be a leapfrog. And regarding, for example, Mario Draghi report with other people at the movement, because like Andreas Klinger and everything, we have Marvin, also there are several people. We have prepared a report that has been also sent to Mario Draghi's team. We also are in touch with the EU Council, which is a council of member states. So we are discreet, but we have, I would say, on a regular basis, several of us, and me, it's because of my background, I do a big part of it. We have calls with several institutions, politicians, governments. And why it's important to speak up, and I will conclude that, is because within Europe and within the Spanish government, administration, and politicians, there are actually many people who want us to succeed very strongly. They are what you would say to the sponsor when you have pitched a product to a company and you have 2 guys who love it and they have to convince their boss, their colleagues, whatever. So in Europe, you have a lot of people who understand and believe in what we say and do. And what is helpful is that if they see that you who vote in Europe, that the more the politicians think they're going to lose the next election if they don't push a growth agenda, the more it's going to move. Let's talk straight. So they look at the climate and the noise you're going to do, the retweet, the post of today, the speak up, commenting politicians, mentioning us in politician tweets and wherever on LinkedIn, will just make you what we're talking today on the top of the pile. It's about being the top priority and connecting the dots.
Yeah, no. Well, I cannot be more supportive of what you guys do. But well, we at Nuclio, well, we have conversations with the local administrations, the central administrations. We've been speaking not that actively with the European administration, but as well, we as an ecosystem, we can be considered as a local ecosystem as well. That we promote a lot Barcelona, but we as well have offices in Madrid and companies in Madrid. But we as well have companies in the UK. We have companies in Canada as well, and so we have some investments outside, or companies that we've created. Well, the thing is, you know, what is the catch-22? Okay, we've spoken about the limits of the tax system, the framework, the legal framework, etc. You know, having an European ID, a global one. I think there is something that we all should push more and more, and we should make our voice being listened, because otherwise it'll not be. You know, we will be buried in a pile of laws and regulations, etc. So that moves very slow. And it's necessary just to keep pushing. But as well, we've been a lot talking about receiving money from the outside. And that's a problem because to me as well, one of the main problems, why the American funds just decided just to come over to Spain, for instance, and come and invest hardly in those companies, because we were cheap. That's it.
Yeah.
So for them, it was worth it just to pay the price of a lawyer that make up everything, the NIE and all the lines, etc. And that's it. What makes it difficult is just from the entrepreneurial side to set up everything. Not for them, because they have enough money to do it. So the problem is, one, do we have enough big funds in Europe that can follow on later on investments on growth, not allowing. I'm not saying not allowing American money, because I'm so happy that the big funds are coming here, but we should compete in equal circumstances with them, and not letting them to put the company in Delaware. Therefore, we just lose the track of that company out in Europe. So the point in here is as well having this situation just sort out when we have enough funds, enough capacity, enough investment framework that is as well promoted by the European entities like funds and investors. The gap is between the business angel wise and the big VC. Yeah. When talking about the small VCs, we should go local always, because no one from the outside will invest just 1 million in. Well, okay, it could happen, but it's not easy that this happens, that someone from the outside will invest 1 million in one company based in Germany or in Spain or in France, if they are from the outside, because of the burden of regulations. If they should invest, well, we've closed rounds with companies at Nuclio, 30 million funding round, and with American funds, and it was no problem. When talking about those figures, there is no problem. When talking about small figures, is when the problem comparing with the size of the investment that you are allocating, then it comes out and it becomes very relevant. So in my opinion, we need to solve that. We need to create a more powerful investment based in Europe. We need to create funds that they compete and they could follow on heavily alongside with the Americans as well. So I'm not saying no, not to these funds. I'm saying welcome to everyone, but as well we need more in here. We need more in here to compete and to have more capacity. And therefore, if this happens, those actors will as well be voices that they could force the European administrations and the local ones to change the regulation. Because one of I've seen when that law happened in Spain, the association in Spain that is called Spain Cap, that is the Association of Venture Capital and Private Equity, they were one of the ones that they checked and asked to everyone, what were our opinions, and if we should do that. So they canalize. I think they funnel all those opinions as well in a good manner. So we have more actors, we will have more power, and we need more powerful actors to speak with. So that's to me is one of the options.
Yeah, I think it's a food chain almost a size as a grow, and that's why we talk about the Nasdaq, because also the ones who do tickets are in the 5 to 10 million range already think, can this do IPO? And if the IPO, and if there is an IPO market, if you can have a good stock exchange in Europe, then that's also incentivized to keep the headquarters in Europe, because if you know that your IPO, if you have an IPO, will be in US, then it incentivized to move away. And it's very important, the headquarters, and how easy it is to keep and incentivize keep headquarters in Europe, because the GDP of Europe and its growth is directly linked where are the headquarters of the fastest growing companies. So it looks like a detail, and when there are a new iPhone or whatever product, and so the experience of investment is a lot of tiny details that have to be super smooth. And probably going in your way of a single market, it should be possible for entrepreneurs to provide the same experience of investment being based in Germany, being based in Italy, being based in Barcelona or Paris. And leaving also founders and entrepreneurs to use the user interface of their choice, and probably tomorrow the fintech of Europe, from N26, Conto, Revolut, all those, to propose options to send a link, like you can send a link for payments, you can send a link for your investment. Like even on the investment process, because we give more freedom on how to run it, or the signature, the DocuSign, but leave it to entrepreneurs to control the relationship with investors. Don't get into that room because you will mess it up. And regarding funding, yes, we have to incentivize taking risk, because there are pension funds, there is a lot of money in Europe, a lot of savings. And it's funny because we dare to send that to Americans, so they risk that money. So we should skip one step, give the comfort zone so we can invest, and also incentivize all the insurers and all the people managing funds in Europe to have more incentives on all the way to take risk and risk that money from banks, from funds, because if we would increase 1, 2, 3 points, that would make a huge difference in the capital markets. And the Europe and involve founders in the whole ecosystem, get feedback from them to see if it works. We need a faster feedback.
Thanks for the chance for participating. Here, an entrepreneur who has been on the road for 10 years, from raised 9 million, had an exit. So I pretty much faced all the phases of the entrepreneur journey. I have some thoughts to share, and then a question specific for you, Benoit, which is, I was living in Chicago back in 2011, and they had the mindset that startup world is a geopolitical thing. It's not only about investment. I mean, as you said before, we are using iPhones all the time. We're paying the quote of Netflix every day. We're paying, well, in this case, Spotify, but Spotify market cap is only about 70 billion compared to 3 trillion of Nvidia, 3.5 of Apple. I mean, it's almost the same GDP than France. I mean, Spain is 1.4 trillion dollars. I mean, there are 6 or 7 tech companies all based from the States that they are overcoming. So I don't understand how people don't see that we're evolving from a world where the status quo is about democracies, in a world where it's technocracies, where the super extra countries players are really dominating the world. We're seeing this with the effect that they have on the elections, with the tech media, how we influence some mindsets in the society. So really, entrepreneurs will seek for pain. I think the pain is huge here, but it's not today or after COVID. It's been here like 15 or 20 years. So that was the thoughts I wanted to share. And afterwards, in the States, there's a guy like Elon Musk, the Iron Man of nowadays, who suggested to be VP for Trump if he gets elected.
Mm.
Do you imagine Europe getting someone like Daniel Ek managing and implementing startup and agile politics, not from a politic, but from an entrepreneur like Daniel Ek next to Ursula von der Leyen to implement and execute and make this wonderful region of the world who's getting super sleepy. What do we want to be 20 years or 30 years from now? Do you imagine?
Yeah.
So to get someone like you guys or really executing.
Yeah. So I think it's a very good point. We tend to forget that supposedly politics, being a member of parliament or a commissioner, is not necessarily a career. Historically, democracy was a concept that you, myself, we could represent our other citizens, and we could have done several startups, and suddenly we joined the parliament. We are the parliament members, the member of parliaments being Spain, Europe, or whatever. Supposedly they are normal citizens that at some point say, look, I'm gonna represent the rest of the citizens. And what I'm saying sounds weird, it should not to sound weird. So actually what you say should be the norm, not the exception. And that's also something we are pushing when we say the mindset is, we have a naming system for commissioner. Is how many commissioners in Europe are serial entrepreneurs? I think it's 0, but is that normal? And many laws in Europe actually make it very easy to switch on and off between being a public worker, a functionary, a public servant, and a member of parliament or other functions like this. And a lot have those backgrounds. And we need to change that. We need much more, make it easy to switch between founders, entrepreneurs, VCs, and commissioner, member of parliament. And because otherwise you can question, is it really representative? And beyond that, on the geopolitical aspect, you're right. One reason we are part of the conversations by European politicians and beyond is that they realize they don't have money anymore. Yeah. The public debt of Spain, of France, Italy, and many countries, and the ones who don't have, they will have so many people retire. So they like it or not, they have exhausted or they're about to exhaust how much debt and taxes they can, which create a window of opportunity. So they just come to help, oh, can you help us? And even in very successful countries like US, debt is very high. And historically, innovation, R&D was very public. So military, it comes from that. But if you look at the curves, and on our X account we mentioned it, is it actually going down, and meaning that strategic innovation and disruption is more and more coming from private. And you mentioned Elon Musk. Elon Musk is not American, was not American. So he decided to go to US. That's beyond politics, what has been created. And if we have fight against climate change, is because we had an example of entrepreneurs who said, look, electric cars are doable, they are cool. And that's when in Europe, car makers could not say no longer that it's not doable. And there are a lot of rockets and stuff like that, right? And Tesla is European. The name of the company is a Croatian guy, a genius, right? So Einstein, European. So, and we have so many of them, and Spotify, and so yes, I think one good thing, and there is a title. So von der Leyen, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the commission, she said, I'm going to create a vice president position against red tape, vice president simplification. And I don't know who's going to be that person, but that would make crazy hell of sense. That would be a hardcore entrepreneur. I don't think it will happen, but then let's go for plan B. That person should call us, should call you, and should be surrounded by the best entrepreneurs. Should call Daniel Ek from Spotify, but they should, what do we do? And the entrepreneur spirit is not task-oriented, because entrepreneur is ruthless, result-oriented. Do you have revenue? Do you have sign-ups? So not, we have done 20 laws like they told us. No, we are doing whatever it takes until the numbers change. And even me, I might be wrong, or you, on what it takes. We have a first initial list. Let's see the results. Doesn't work. Again, lean. And lean is come also from Toyota, and before that is take the people in the factory, ask them, is it stupid what they do? Because of the way you tell them to do that is a bit what's happening in Europe.
Yeah, but I would like to add at something of what you mentioned, geopolitical. How many of you are working on the AI industry? One. Okay. There is a lot of new startups in Barcelona as well that they have an angle of AI, etc. But real AI. Just in San Francisco, I had a lunch today with someone that is a very good entrepreneur from San Francisco, and he knows everyone there. He told me that just in the last month in San Francisco, that he, by the way, is revamping a little bit as a city. There is 1,500 new companies on the AI industry, fully funded. No, I'm not mentioning new startups with an idea or an MVP. So fully funded companies, just talking over Series A. Okay, that's a change. That's a big change. But then, what do you need though? Talking with people from Google, they told me, all right, so if you need to hire an engineer that is specialized in AI, what it will ask you for initially. What is your computational power available? All right, so that's another level. How many CPU factories do we have in Europe? Do we have something? Few of them in Netherlands, and I think just no one knows. No one knows actually. How many computational power we have, of course, in Barcelona, the Mare Nostrum, and it's fantastic. This supercomputer, etc. But in fact, if we want to set up new companies related on this new industry that is changing and revolutionizing the world, do we have the elemental prime materials just raw to use them? We don't know. I do not personally. I'm not sure. We have some companies that they are working on the AI as well here in Nuclio, but I'm not sure. If we will be capable to compete with those companies that they have this amazing framework there. So, and that's one of the problems as well. Because the military industry is pushing a lot on the AI. The public administrations, the big factories, the big companies, they are demanding more and more solutions. That those solutions can be provided by small companies, not only by the three main companies that they will remain on the AI, like Microsoft, Google, and Meta probably. That's it. That's my opinion. It could be something more, but in the end, there is an opportunity as well to change things.
Yeah, and which goes in this kind of thinking are people who invest and people who are entrepreneurs, and that's why European Commission politicians have to make sure they have lunch with you. They try to jump into the lunch you had today or yesterday, and because they need to hear this at the coffee machine. That's where the mindset shift. And Daniel Ek said, look, he did a letter with Mark Zuckerberg saying Spotify used AI to suggest playlists. If we were blocked from doing, Spotify would not exist. And Sweden is one of the most successful in Europe in creating successful companies, so it should be listened at. So definitely, we need. We should not beg to be listened at by politicians. They should knock on our door every day, and they should probably go to a founder. They should go to a boot camp. They should go to an acceleration, even if they don't do the company. But it's such a eye-opening. Come in the kitchen. You were saying it's a kitchen, right? It's a lab, right? Come in the kitchen. You are welcome. Experience for yourself, and you raise people who raise money here. We have received almost in every round. Please move to Delaware, because when they experience what it is here, the red tape, they just say that, and we want to no longer hear that. Congrats, and we have so many success stories, including the fintech, where Europe, success story fintech, we have created a great pan-European framework, and we have some of the best fintech on earth. So let's do the same for chips, and that's we need to change that.
Yeah. Well, I think that we could talk about this forever and ever and ever. But question?
If you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
So we've been talking about a lot of systemic challenges right now. Where do you see the responsibility of the individual entrepreneur in this whole thing?
Well, I think it comes back to the importance of speaking up and knowing where to speak up. And specifically, I would say there are certain platforms where your voice extends further than you think it does. To people who are completely. If you go on LinkedIn, you're not going to find the president of Italy or Finland, of Germany, but they're all on the X platform, and they pay attention, or their teams, their council, their cabinets pay attention to what people are talking about. And so the way that the algorithm works, we were just talking about this, and this is kind of interesting, is, obviously the algorithm is going to spit out what you're interacting with. And politicians, they're constantly just putting out political stuff. And so what's the other big channel upstream talking about politics? It's us, right? And so we get put onto their algorithm. And so X platform is like democratizing access to being able to talk to, or to at least be seen and heard by these people. And so I would say, as an entrepreneur, your responsibility is to talk about the challenges that you're having, and to kind of sign on to other speakers in the movement, and I've had to deal with that too, you know. And I think that it's like that goes really far, surprisingly, yeah. Especially, and it's so cool to have this conversation today when yesterday, Ursula was reelected a couple months ago for the thing, and one of her main things in that plan was already European competitiveness. But having Mario Draghi on stage yesterday talking about all of the things we talk about, over-regulation and AI, which is, I mean, probably we had the Mistral in France, so yeah. And that's kind of falling behind as somebody playing around with some of the AIs, but we have everything we need, but there's just too much friction in the way, and they know that. And so it's not anymore, we kind of, I don't know, I felt like 2 months ago, you know, kind of have to beat it up, like, you know, fight up the Leviathan, fight Goliath. But now it's kind of like, no, they understand what we're going through a little bit more now. And so it's an incredible opportunity to be heard by them.
Yeah. Founders like action. Often when you do a company, you say, like, I don't like the way this is done, I'm going to change it. So apply beyond your product to your system. So like, because visualize yourself, do I want to do an IPO? Yeah, the priority is, do I want to make it easier to receive offers of 10, 20 million tickets? So maybe that's in 3 years or 5 years, but you have to put the seed now so that in 3 years, it's easier for you. And we like action. And the second we are good is, there have been an old-fashioned lobby where you put, you're well dressed up, you pay some millions, you don't have that money. Or you may, I don't know. But while we may not be the best at this old-fashioned lobby of other industries, but we are good at social media because they are made by founders and digital. So use what you're good at, speak up.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurs are good just changing the status quo of everything.
Exactly.
So that's, you know, they change the industries, they challenge the finance industry, the robotics, the industry, everything, mobility, climate. So why not, you know, what do you say? Yeah, 100%.
I just want to say that as an individual serial entrepreneur, for the first time in my life, I consider joining the public administration or whatsoever to change this, because I'm so worried for my kids in the future.
You made it.
Yeah, we have a candidate.
We succeeded with today's.
I would never thought I would even consider being on the public side to help, because I'm super entrepreneur, very execution mindset. But if we don't change things drastically, we're gonna collapse. I mean, it's just the beginning of AI, quantum physics. We have many quantum physicists, Europeans, Germans, Swedish, getting the money in the States and developing those new cutting-edge technologies. I mean, the smartphone is going to disappear sooner or later. This Apple Vision Pro, we're going to be talking to the operational systems, like Her, the movie. And there are so many fields out there that it's very scary, the future. And we don't have any control at all. And for the first time, I think there are many entrepreneurs who would say, okay, like Elon Musk, being South African, even considering supporting there. We need to shrink the weight of the state and being more focused, more agile, and being aware that we are not the leaders anymore. We are still, we are the leaders regarding many human values. The rest of the world is playing a different game. And I'm sure I'm not the only entrepreneur thinking like this. So if somehow, okay, if you're saying about the algorithms, our destiny will depend on the algorithms of an American company. Why don't we get a coffee with Ursula von der Leyen and we say, hey, this entrepreneur has 10 years of experience, then is Daniel Heck, then there's this. Let's do something. And we know in this hypothetical scenario that we would be the bulldog inside the institution because we go against status quo. But I really think now there's a critical mass of individuals who are willing to say, okay, let's go and get dirty, because if not, what world our kids are gonna live.
Also, maybe just one quick note is that every serious capital funder in the world is paying attention to what's going on right now. I mean, you look at Andreessen Horowitz, all of the big kind of figures that you kind of look up to or would be the dream person to invest in your company, they're paying attention to what's happening. And so it's a great time to speak up so you can get noticed by them as well, right? Because they want these changes as much as anybody else.
And so, obviously, we are in this current landscape, and it's important to speak up and all these things. But also, considering the landscape that we currently have, what are some practical strategies that we can implement as entrepreneurs in this European market to, take our businesses either from 0 to 1 or from 1 to wherever, right? And are there also any things where we do have some sort of advantage and where we can even capitalize on potential opportunities that are here in Europe?
To me, just one. Well, I would say, and I will like to get back. Tonight is the big debate, right? Between Kamala Harris.
Oh, you need to go.
No, I need to go.
Yeah.
No, because of that.
I'm the American. I
And
should
Trump.
be.
No. What worried me today, I was reading at the press that, okay, if Trump wins, the SP will go down by, I don't know, 4 points, and then if Kamala wins, it will down by 1 point something. But then we will win by our bonds, etc., or something like that. Okay, let's stop being followers that everything is affecting Europe and nothing is affecting the US. If we do this, if we do that. Come on, Europe is the biggest market in the world. The biggest market in the world, not by GDP, but the biggest buyer. And it's amazing the capacity of changing things that this continent has. But the problem is that it's fragmented, it's different, it's not a single business model, etc. So what we can do, considering that we have this landscape that is reduced to maybe this, okay, beautiful space, but that's it. We are a bunch of people just discussing about that, right? Doing things. I think Benoit just named it amazingly, and Björk as well. I mean, just doing things. It's important. Just making you being listened as well, but as well leveraging on the opportunities that, like yesterday, Mario Draghi showed that there is a need. So they, at a certain point, I would like to consider that they listen that this is a real problem that we have at this moment. So that will be a waterfall of consequences out of this message that will eventually reach us at some point. And I think that is a great opportunity to have a good landscape and a good opportunity just to be part of something. I think that's it. Otherwise, we would just lose the towel, throw the towel, and it just, okay, we're done, and we will let everyone go to the United States and do things. But we're still just doing things because it's not impossible. I mean, it's a real fact that you can fundraise money here, you can set up a company, despite the burdens and complications that you will face, but you can still do it. I mean, it's tough, but it's doable. And I think it will be, smoother and smoother, and it's about to keep fighting.
Absolutely. So to say specifically how you go 0 to 1, 1 to 100, without knowing the industry, but often the mindset of us are turning a problem into opportunity. So even if someone is like, wow, I want to change Europe, so even the situation we are create a lot of opportunities. Even you have remote deal.com who have say, okay, it's hard to hire across Europe, so we do startups, right? So you can also, I think more and more, there are fintechs who make it easy to create a company digitally. So it's about a mindset, okay, that's a problem, now I'm gonna laugh at it and I'm gonna act on it and I'm gonna find some fun, like when you do sport and you sweat or whatever. So I think I'm very optimistic also. I think fundamentally the awareness is being created. So, but what you can do as entrepreneur is you want to engage and understand your next stage. So today we talk about IPO and other things. So I think it's important that you are already starting to have the feel of what's gonna be asked for you in 1, 2, 3, 4 years. And once you have that and you see that some paper is complicated for you, some red tape, then speak now, because it might take 1 or 2 years to change it. But then it will create more opportunities for you, because yes, you can move to Delaware and US, but then the number one priority would be people who are already American and there. So you should create more options for you as you can. And an example where we were giving is, in theory, you can do everything digital with notaries in Spain and Italy or Germany, because there is a European law on this. The truth is that law is not respected, or zero execution. I asked the numbers less than 0.001%. So as an entrepreneur, you can just say, look, I'm going to try to do it digitally in my company, raise digitally, and I'm going to share it's impossible in Spain. And you're going to attack European, Spanish politicians. What you tell them, yes, you did the law, also the law of startups, it just doesn't work. So you're giving, as a user, feedback to the system. And it's true, the overall picture of what it is, as first, disruption of consumers, like, or you watch videos, all your Netflix, Amazon, you had a better experience. Then came the B2B, where you had the bad software, old software, now it's getting better. The reality is good news of that, because entrepreneurs have improved everything. Now we have looked at consumer stuff, we look at business. Okay, consumer, great experience. Now business, I have really cool tool. Why public administration, why my government has to look like we're 100 years back in time? And that's the next piece of entrepreneurs, and the next thing we should not accept. And I think administrations are noticing it, because they know that consumers, citizens are not stupid and are seeing that there is a huge gap with the rest of the world when it comes to public administration. And then you say, like, look, now when I vote, when I speak up, is going to be a criteria, and they have to know. And it shows you, I think it's good for entrepreneurs to have this spirit, like, I'm part of an ecosystem. That's an ecosystem. So I do it for the younger entrepreneurs, the next generations. I do it for my colleagues. And guess what? What Bjorn was saying, it's actually today we are all here. We're going to get to know each other. It becomes a topic like looking a game or something, and you start to know people. So you might know your next investor today because you also participated in the movement. It's also the mindset of what can you do where you're not fatalist, where you try to push system. And there are a lot of other legal tech that are taking on you have online signatures, you have signatures here. So you can turn those issues into opportunities. And that's what we have to turn Europe and my system into an opportunity for me as an entrepreneur and Europe. And that's doable.
I think what you're saying is so right. What you mentioned, like, it's all about the end game. As entrepreneurs, the investors are going to want to know, what's your exit plan? Are you going to do an IPO, or are you going to try to sell this company to somebody, right? And if that picture is changing, that's part of your responsibility as a founder to know, okay, is this going to be like, what's the good exit opportunity here? And so you iterate to get to that point. And because it really does look like that, existentially, it's going to have to change. So let's hope that it does with Mario Draghi's report. So the practical thing is here, like, your responsibilities have been extended. You need to now pay much more attention to what's happening, because the landscape that you're playing, the game that you're playing, the cards are changing, the rules are changing. And so that's part of your responsibility as an entrepreneur, to build a successful company and to respond to an investor. What's the end game? What's your exit plan? You need to know that. And so that's why I would say this is such an important conversation. And then, as I just want to echo again, it's like, because capital allocators know that, just by raising your voice and getting recognized by them, they know that you are fundamentally long-term minded, and they want to see that. And so I think that's going to be like attracts like, and I think you will be able to find very good investors just by being a part of this movement as well, to be honest. Yeah. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one thing is, absolutely. And we sometimes entrepreneurs think it's really something on the side, the law, the policies, the regulation. Actually, it's a huge part of the success stories. One of the biggest company and first success stories, Microsoft. Microsoft was a contract, and that contract with IBM happened because they were antitrust against IBM. And so they created an opportunity to create an independent operating system that made a billionaire and would be a trillionaire. And the examples, many successful companies in US States, they at some point, and the father of Bill Gates was a lawyer. Tesla exists because they made a crazy lobby and they received billions of federal money to exist, making sure that there are grants each electric car sold. So why Delaware, why US? US is a legal system. It has a constitution, it has a Delaware. So the Anglo-Saxon and the Americans understand that the strategic weight of having the best legal system that attract capital. A company is a legal system, it's an abstract creation to get investors. And we Europeans are very naive, not understanding that, like the common Saxon, Anglo-Saxon understood. I went to UK to a bar association, and the judge was doing a speech. So a judge explaining the strategic importance of British common law, where they dominate maritime law and why it brings business to UK. We need this in Europe, where even judges should have been entrepreneurs at some point. We have to say, look, business has to be everywhere because it impacts our life. And I think in Europe, we are very naive about that. We don't understand that. They understand how to use the legal part, the intellectual property part, to win the game.
So I've got a series of questions that both of you could answer. So the first one goes, although I do agree that politicians are paying attention to an extent right now, in the past I've seen in many posts on X, them getting roasted by people all the time, actually being humiliated for the policies. So it's not something new. So now they're paying attention. So the first question is, how much can we trust them now that they are going to follow through with their policies, and how can we get into their minds? Because to me, it feels like they're kind of anti-growth. And we're pro-growth, they're anti-growth. And it's like, we have to communicate with them, but I don't know how. Because, for example, we want energy, we want our AI to be here, but for example, Germany is going anti-nuclear rather than going pro-nuclear. So it's like, then it's how to understand them in that sense, how to communicate with them. And then in terms of the party politics, what's your opinion in terms of, in Europe, unfortunately, very fragmented. Every country has their own parties. We're going to the extremes, far left, far right. And then for our voices to be heard, it's like, to whom do we go? How do we start organizing? Because, for example, I see that Europe should unite more, but instead of uniting, we're going the other direction. So I feel like I'm not an entrepreneur I'd like to be. So these opinions are more these questions are more in a societal level. So it's more how do we actually try to also fight those trends and unite as entrepreneurs or.
So first you can follow us, like us, repost, follow Bjorn and Nuclio, speak up. And I think what you can do is I'm bored or I feel like it's Monday, I want to change my mind, instead of passively looking Facebook, Instagram, Twitter or X. You just I'm gonna search some politicians, Spanish, European. I'm gonna look at when they talk about competitiveness, job creation, because they do. And they all say they want to cut red tape. So just say, okay, and you repost in comment one of the posts where I say, look here, why investors have to take an 11-hour flight. You said you want less carbon. 11-hour flight is not less carbon. You say it's digital. You said you have a layer of startup. So repeating, and in that comment, and they will start to have likes, they will see you commented their post. And it's like, let's be straight, direct. Let's put the contradiction. It's like people who take a flight, it's delayed, you didn't get free lunch or reimbursement. Do the same with politicians. start to say, look, you say this. We have a repetition. So they start to, everywhere they go, they should see the same message. And don't trust them until it's done, until we go to the winning line, repetition. That's why you see this guy, Benoit, keeps saying the same story on X. Yeah, because in another angle, and also from different people, and they need to say, I cannot escape this. It's, I tell you once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 100 times, maybe now you say, okay, I have to do it. Maybe you can call it brainwashing. No problem. We're gonna brainwash the politicians. Let's do it. You know, if we manage to change things just so we don't speak up anymore, that's fine with me. You know. So we have to be pesados, as we say that. Where you go all the way and enjoy it. You know, and find story of competitive anecdotes. Because I think even in a Spanish society, people don't speak up so much. You have freedom of speech. It's kind of useless if you don't use it, right? It's like not having it, right? So, like Mark Twain said, there is no difference between someone who doesn't know how to read and someone who doesn't read, right? So, there is a difference between a founder who has freedom of speech and a founder who don't use it. There is not much difference. So, speak up like crazy. Like, we're in 2024, I start a company in Spain. Why I have to go to a notary? Why? What's the relationship with politicians, right? It doesn't make sense. Common sense. So, get emotional and speak up. Yeah.
So now we know what Benoit does in his free time. Huh?
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I think there is this is politics. You know, there is different opinions. We as well in Spain, and we tend to blame the entrepreneurs or the business people because it gives you votes, but it gives votes to a part of these message. You know, that they want to get this vote out of these just blame that it doesn't make any sense because an entrepreneur is creating jobs. Right, and usually it's not people that makes a lot of money out of nothing. So they pass through a lot of painful situations, you know, until some of them or just few of them they reach a certain level of success. I don't know if we can trust, as you were mentioning, you know, someone. We should keep pushing, as Benoit say, because in the end, you know. Everything is about currents of opinions, and you see when something happens that it happens and it becomes this kind of a snowball effect, then the things change. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an optimistic person. Otherwise, I wouldn't have chosen this profession. But I think it's what is necessary right now.
So maybe we should expect a new accelerationist party soon.
Yeah.
Well, I think Benoit is the more.
It looks like a good place. Yeah, I think we have also to be thankful and grateful. There are a lot of politicians and member of parliaments who really support us and we talk with and want us to succeed. And thanks to us, and if you speak up, they can say, look, someone commented this. You say, yeah, why? What the hell? Because often they don't even know the primes. Because they haven't done fundraising where they had to have this signé of 20 investors and the guy say, forget it, I don't invest and you can close your company. If they hear it everywhere, it's like, okay, you know, because if you don't tell them, how are they gonna know?
And just a spontaneous idea,
yeah.
Why wouldn't you make an accelerator and instead of always having this adversarial or they're finding out about it on X and all these other things, get their skin in the game. Why not have this lawyer or this judge you said who was speaking about business concepts and so on and so on? Make an accelerator for all these guys, stick them in there, do it like on whatever television to follow the whole thing. And I think they will very quickly understand when they feel it on their own experience. And how long does it take to build a company, to do the fundraising and all that? 3 months. So take one of these guys out for 3 months, put them in the accelerator. Not one of these guys, a whole team. And make a phantom company. Doesn't even matter what the company, make it AI related so that they can get out and get that going too. Is that worth a gamble? How much would that cost? Could you get that fundraised maybe from the EU somehow? I don't know. That way they would really have on their own experience in their own lifetime some way to translate that into legislation.
I think yes, they need to. I think it would be logical that, especially if you are part of in a government, national or European, I think if you are in the branch that is in charge of regulating startups and tech and company law, they should make it mandatory for you to have spent time 1, 2, 3 months in an accelerator at the minimum. And I think there should be a quota of actual serial entrepreneurs hired in those institutions, because they know they've been through it, right? So it's like you regulate boats and nobody has ever been on a boat. What the hell, you know? That's the way it works right now. So I think, yes, we should strategically do it. And we're gonna invite and tell them, and we are already doing as we can by speaking up so they can see firsthand. But when we talk to them, that's a message today. We have to repeat it, and you should post it yourself on your social media. We will repost. You're like, come join us, see what it is. Even politicians like to talk about disabilities, women's rights, these kind of things. I'm sorry, but that would benefit all population, that you don't have to take a flight or your car to sign an investment round. If you really want more people to be able to create, let them sign online, right? Walk the talk. So I agree with you. Our goal is that they really, especially, make sure you have founders who are in the party for this. But I cannot decide. I cannot kidnap them. Yeah, but we have to incentivize it. I'm sure they can have free food a few days at Nuclio.
I'm happy to.
Exactly.
To set it up.
So you have a call.
You can create the idea, so we can just wrap it up and set up a thing like that. So it could be a good experiment.
They are very welcome here, and we'll support them.
Yeah, maybe we can start wrapping up. Or do you have a last question? Or
One last question.
Okay, yeah.
More so from tax optimization point of view, right? If you have a company here in Spain or maybe in Europe, you are a lawyer, you have invested in numerous companies. I mean, you both have similar profiles in some ways and plenty of experience. Do you have any recommendations in terms of setting up your legal structure, right? Like how to set up a structure that's more efficient, that also, when you don't have to maybe spend most of the money you have worked very hard for into pay taxes, right? That are not always put to the best use. What recommendations do you have for people starting companies here in Spain?
There is different points of views. Spain is not the best place tax-wise to set up a company, and you could say, all right, let's set up a company in the UAE or something that you will pay 0.5, etc., or let's create a company outside. But as well, when you would need not lawyers to face a suit or something like that, or a problem with the customer, it will cost you a lot of money. So as well, European frameworks are expensive, but at the same time we have some good stuff as well. That it costs a lot. I mean, we could say that the laws, and getting back to all this conversation, that okay, the laws are, I mean, from the ICE area, some of them, but it's very challenging to change them. But we as well, we have a system that surrounds everything, and we have some, your workers will have health security. You would not have to pay a very expensive insurance policy. So there is a lot of stuff that you must consider. So I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't give anyone an advice of what would be the most efficient way to avoid taxes, because avoiding taxes, is not being a citizen. But you can be a tax efficient. And that's being smart. Being tax efficient doesn't mean to be a tax elusive. So I mean, you can create a good system, and at the same time, you know, if you create a company here in Spain, so for instance, do you need a lot of time until you pay taxes? So because you probably will not generate enough revenues to be taxed, and if you do so, and then the tax rate is not higher as you know, comparing to other countries in Europe. I cannot speak about outside Europe because we're talking about Europe, but maybe there is some inequalities between Ireland or Malta or some of the countries that they have good taxing systems, but they as well, you know, okay, you want to go and live there, so okay, you pay less, but okay, you will have other disadvantages. So, I mean, if you cannot live in the place that you can afford, then you're not. I mean, you're not able to pay those taxes. Or if it's, the only thing that worries you is the other taxes, to me, it's not the best way to entrepreneur something.
Yeah, I would say exactly. You have only one life. Live where you want. It's very reasonable. Quality of life is very good. In places where there are no taxes, often the cost of life is much higher, so you end up losing. And I think it's also about give back. What you can work as entrepreneurs is, I think, if you reinvest in other entrepreneurs, in funds to give back to the ecosystem, I think, yes, there should be incentive for that. But overall, our movement is not really like trying to cut the tax. I would even say we are for paying taxes because many people were saying that some political parties would be against entrepreneurs having a bit outdated view of what it is. And the paradox is by not changing the laws for pro-entrepreneurs, pro-growth, they're actually sending all the tax to another continent. Because what happened is the most successful companies are moving their headquarters to US, and that's where they're going to pay the taxes. And so not doing something, even if the political party wants more taxes paid by entrepreneurs, is actually being sending away tax and applying a 0% tax to entrepreneurs because you're just goodbye to that money. So if you want to sustain the system of Europe, healthcare and everything, you need someone to pay and then make it more easy for having those people to create wealth they can share later. And obviously, as entrepreneurs, we probably start to analyze how that money is spent and maximize it, right? But good.
Any last questions? Last opportunity? Well, that was the end of our public service announcement. No, but I think follow Benoit. You can follow me as well. All right, we both try to. We've done some live streams. Over 500 people had joined at one point, and they keep growing and growing and growing. And you hear just incredible entrepreneurs. They raise their hand, they start talking, and I think it's the best way just to give a voice to these people. Yeah, we tried to, I think both of us, you especially, are very proactive, incredible source to follow the pulse of this. I don't even want to call it not just a movement, but just the whole kind of battle kind of going on right now to some extent. But things are going very well. Yesterday was an extremely optimistic event, I would have to say. To your note of like, are the politicians actually going to act on it? I think that all the politicians can kind of lie their socks off, but if the proof is in the pudding, if the economy is not working, eventually they have to kind of do something about it, you'd hope. I mean, there are cases throughout history that didn't happen, but the fact that it is a number one priority, and that's their message is urgency. And that's like Ursula is talking about urgency. So really, I think the EU Commission is kind of sorting it out. It really comes down to us, to each individual member state of the EU, the countries themselves, to kind of step up. So I think we need to speak to them, and we have a lot of leverage to do so.
Right. So, well, I would like to thank you, everyone, just coming here over. Would like to thank you, Nuclio founders, as well, to make it this possible. So it's our entrepreneurial digital school that we that we just put this kind of seed, just helping people getting to know, how to set up a company, etc. And so happy to have discussed about these interesting topics, but very controversial, but very, very interesting.
Thank you, Nuclio. Thank you, Bjorn. Thank you, Ernest.
Thank you, guys.
And up to you to speak up. Thank you.
Thank you.